It's time for the Q&A. Thank you guys so much for sending in your questions. Wow, a lot more than I thought. Wish I had some help with them.
Perhaps I can help with that.
Wuten?
Hey, Mike.
How are you on my computer screen?
It's one of my support skills as a brony.
Really?
No. I've been calling you on Skype for a while now.
Oh yeah, I was wondering what that was.
If you were looking for someone to read the questions for you, why not ask the smoothest narration voice in all of YouTube?
Oh, you know Morgan Freeman? You were talking about yourself, weren't you?
Yes, I was talking about me.
Perfect. That works too.
All right, let's get this Q&A started, shall we? Oh wait, before we do, I've been out of the loop for a bit. So Mike, when's the next Ghost Rider episode?
Well, you see, the thing is, before we get started with the Q&A, I have a quick general announcement for everybody. This is mostly concerning two members who were supposed to be part of the Q&A, but unfortunately had to opt out. At the time of recording this Q&A, 13th Syndicate had bronchitis. The bronchitis also still remains in the form of a cough, so she will unfortunately be absent for this episode as well. However, she wrote down her answers for all the questions that I sent, and we are getting her stand-in from episode 10, as well as her stand-in for the current episode, to read out her answers for you. So she did sort of take part in the Q&A, but she can't be reading out her own answers. We've got her fill-in doing that, so she's kind of part of the Q&A, so hope for a speedy recovery. JD Exists, however, the voice of Dart, has contracted vocal nodules. For those who do not know what vocal nodules are, they are small little, they're like sores in your vocal cords. They come from when you overuse them. Now, this could be like in one big session that you overuse your vocal cords, or over time of continuous overuse without properly warming up and allowing to heal. JD has contracted vocal nodules. It's alright. This is common thing to happen. He will be out for a month, but unfortunately that means he will not be also able to partake in not only this Q&A, but in the upcoming episode. We have a stand-in for him as well. You've heard him already. Our stand-in is Wuten, who is helping me with this Q&A. So hope for JD for a speedy recovery, as well as the 13th Syndicate. The rest of us are here and ready to participate in the Q&A, so now let's get started.
From Z Red Rebel. Question 1 for the entire cast. Do you hail Hydra?
What kind of question is that?
Hail Hydra! Yes! It's good! So good!
Sorry about that. I don't know where that came from. But yeah, that's ridiculous.
The only thing I hail is the glitter companies. Where would we be without them? Praise glitter.
I would hope I don't. I think I'd like to err on the side of the heroes, but I think we're gonna have to wait until Civil War to see if I'm more Tony or more Cap. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm excited.
Hail Hydra. Of course. That's a pretty funny reference.
No, not really. I'm more of a superhero than a supervillain type girl. So I might hail Loki. Not sure. Don't judge me.
No, I tend to follow the Red Rebellion. You never heard of the Red Rebellion? Exactly.
Question 2. Are any of you close to one another?
Do you mean close as in proximity, like do we live near each other, or close as in do any of us have a bond of some kind? If it's proximity, I don't think so. Well, I don't live near any of them as far as I know. As far as, like, bonding goes, I'm probably closest to Mr. Fry and Austin Nebbia. I mean, there's not like a threesome going on or anything, but I usually talk to them via Facebook Messenger or Skype at least a couple of times a month. This also isn't to say that I hate everyone else in the cast. I don't. I just don't talk to them as much.
I wouldn't say we are like best buddies, super close, and just friendship and sunshine and all that. But, we get along really well, and it's always interesting conversation.
Well, Michael and Austin and I knew each other from a fan
Kim Possible project. Other than that, I haven't really spoken to much of the cast except for like a couple calls. I have a very busy schedule and I don't really spend that much time just typing with people. So yeah.
Do you mean like geographically close, or your question's a bit unclear, but or do you mean like emotionally close, like bonding? Because I think that this project has really helped us bond as friends. Like I think that we're all the quality of the work that we produce really allows us to do good work and to become better friends because of it, and I love working with all these guys.
I would say that I'm definitely closest to Michael Fry because I know him the best, and he's kind of the one that got me started. I guess it's a couple of years ago now. I believe the first project we did together was a Zelda one. So yeah, I've worked with him in a lot of projects over the years, and I definitely talked to him the most. I used to have more time to be more active in like our Skype group chats and stuff and be more talkative with the other cast members, and unfortunately school in the past year and a half has just been ridiculous, so I'm not on Skype as much anymore, but I need to try and make that more of a habit because they're all really, really awesome people, and I learn so much from them, and I love hearing their work, and they make it a really fun environment to work in, and chatting with them is great. So when we used to have like long Skype chats, they would be really amazing. So we definitely need to try and get back in that because that was really fun.
I don't know if you or anyone else knows this, but Michael and I have been friends for a really long time. Actually, at one point, we were dating, though we're strictly friends now. We're still pretty close, though not as close as we used to be, and because of that, I'm fairly close with his family, like Summer and Mark, too.
If you're talking as if proximity, then the obvious answer to that would be Mark and Summer, obviously. If you're talking as like friendship-wise, well, Mark and Summer, obviously, but excluding those two, following down the list, I'd say 13th Syndicate, because I've known her longer than that. We were friends longer for that, and as well as a few other things. After that, Austin, JD, and Coconut, because we had all worked together on Ghost Rider, and Coconut even before that on The Legend of Zelda: The Return. So we've had several years of getting to know each other and talking to each other and helping each other through the voice acting stuff, so that. Mick, I met Mick through Austin Nebbia, and that was for a different project, and even after I got him onto Sonic, we only really started talking to each other sometime after that, so now we're starting to communicate and be friends with each other, but at first it was very kind of a professional, I send lines, he does the work, etc., etc. We were friendly, obviously. Now we're closer. April, admittedly, I am not as close to as everyone else in. We maintain a very professional relationship with each other. I send her the lines, she sends it in, we do our time together, and we go about our separate ways. But that doesn't mean I'm not close to her. It's just that I just don't have the same work relationship with her as I do with everyone else. It's more of a working relationship.
From Pokemon Sonic Fan 0148. Question 1. To the whole cast, do you all have fun with voice acting in Secret Identity?
Of course I do! Is this like even a question, man? Really? That's a question you'd ask? Of course I have fun! Wouldn't do it if it wasn't fun. You'd think I'd be miserable given that it's the human who turns into Sonic plot of a lot of fan fiction. But it's actually done well here. Well enough that I can have fun with it and not cry myself to sleep wondering what I'm doing with my life.
You have to understand, the moment I saw the title and read the characters, I had to be in it. There was no way I wasn't going to be a part of this. Every script I have ever gotten, I've been absolutely beyond excited for. Mike can validate that statement. The writing is just awesome. The humor is what gets me. I love it. I think it's completely top-notch wit. And it's always very well done, because nothing ever feels over the top or out of place, whether or not it's the really dramatic scenes or the completely silly ones. it's really done fantastically.
I have a ton of fun recording for Secret Identity. Playing both Tikal and Rouge, I get to play like completely different characters. Tikal's like sweet and quiet, and Rouge is like, you know, like sassy, sultry, and everything like that. And it's just really fun to play both of them. And I just love Rouge's attitude. So it's really amusing.
I mean, how can you not? You know, it's like I said, and it's all just mostly because of the people. Because the people in this project are just so good. And I just have a blast, just talking with them as people, let alone as talented actors. It's always just really fun whenever we start to record. But what I love most, I think, is the fact that we can all record individually. But these guys are just so damn good that, you know, and Michael's a good enough editor that he can make all of us sound like we're together, like we're in a room, like we're in a forest, like we're in a theater, like we're in wherever. And I think that's just a testament to how good everybody on this project is. I just love working with them.
And yeah, for sure, like it's for me personally, it's kind of like a break from my real life. I have 6 classes and I do 2 part-time jobs and I volunteer, so I don't have a lot of free time. I don't have a lot of free time to devote to voice acting projects as much as I would like to, but I look forward to getting lines from Secret Identity and from any other projects I've worked on with Michael. Like, getting my lines is kind of like exciting because I get to review and see where the story's going, what's changing, and because I'm voicing 2 characters, I kind of go into 2 different modes, I guess, or 2 different personalities sort of for them, because their voices are so different. Definitely, you know, voicing like a more serious character versus a more fun character can be totally different, and it puts you in a different sort of headspace, I would say. And overall, it's really fun to kind of switch back and forth. I think it helps you improve in a lot of ways as a voice actor, and it lets you see kind of what your limits are, because I know there are certain voices or certain characters that I would not be a good fit for. So the fun part about working on different characters and voice acting in projects like this is that you get the chance to experiment, see what your range is, maybe even improve it, that kind of thing. So there's always room for growth, and of course getting to hear the finished product is also amazing.
Well, in a word, yes. I am absolutely in love with the fun I have on this show, and I wouldn't miss it for the world. I'm not as serious about voice acting as some of the others on here, and I'm definitely nowhere near as talented as the rest of the cast, but fun? Definitely. It's why I do Maria Speaks, though admittedly I haven't put an episode up in a really long time for various reasons. Oops, sorry. I'll get back to that, totally my bad.
I suppose if you count narration as some form of acting, I know some people really don't, even though I feel like you have to do some form of acting with narration to make the story sound interesting, especially if you're trying to drive it. You can't just be this blank voice reading you out. I guess I get to really have fun when I break the fourth wall a little bit and have it talk to the audience moments. It's now, you'd think it'd be inspired by the Deadpool comedy, but we've been doing that before the movie really came out, so it actually was more inspired by moments from Scrubs, like the NBC show. I know Mark was a big fan of that. We had a couple like those little in-joke humor things where I like to do. Actually, admittedly, the bro joke from episode 11 was taken straight from Tales from the Borderlands. I put that in there because that's Summer's favorite scene from Tales from the Borderlands, so I kind of wanted to do that scene, and she loved it. She loved doing it, even though Mick didn't quite catch the joke on that one. He still did it, though, and it was awesome. I do have fun with Secret Identity, even though I'm technically not really a character with it. I'm kind of a character, but that's spoiler stuff, so.
Question 2 to Michael Fry. Mick Whitefire 28. When did you first started voice acting?
The second question sounds like a good question for, I think, any of us to answer, but I'll share my story. Which I hope won't be too long, I apologize if it is. Now, I actually didn't start out wanting to be an actor. I wanted to be a cartoonist, a la Walt Disney. But I do notice how, even in my younger years, I was paying more attention to the actor credits than the storyboard artists or character designers. Now, lately, my love for drawing has been rebirthed, and I'm paying more attention to those kinds of credits now, but acting is still my main passion. To finally answer the question, sorry for the rambling, I started around 2010. I mean, I had done some fan dubs of my own before then, but that was the first year I had put any of my voiceover antics to the public. I had watched Full Metal Alchemist the year before, and I was blown away by what I saw and heard. And finding convention footage of Vic Mignogna, the voice of the main protagonist on the show, Edward Elric, only fueled that desire more and more. Eventually, a school assignment came up in a class where we were given the opportunity to record an interview with a, quote, historical figure. And that's what I did. I had an interview with Leonardo da Vinci. I was terrible at Italian accents, so I just went for British back then. Of course, my Italian has improved, yes? I would hope so. It would be kind of sad if I did not. And you can find that video on my channel. It's there. I wouldn't recommend looking for it, though, because it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Like most of the stuff starting out, I think for any creative professional, all the first stuff you put out, it's pretty bad. But hey, that's where I started, and that's where you start. You know, sucking at something is the first step to being sort of good at something. Sorry, I wanted to keep that short, but that didn't really happen, did it? Sorry. Next question!
I guess technically I started voice acting a few years ago. I hobbled, put together, I did GMVs for the longest time, and then I just got bored with that, so I was letting my YouTube channel kind of sit in dust for a moment. So I hobbled together with a friend a dub of a cutscene from Spider-Man Edge of Time, which is still on my channel, and we had an idea to do like a redub of the game. We took someone's gameplay, which I got permission for at some point. Just note this ever, but to get permission from the person first, don't wait for it later. Anyway, we got permission to use the gameplay, and then we chopped it up and edited it so it's not the full gameplay, but it's just all the bits with the conversations and the cutscenes that kind of make it more episodic and cinematic. And we dubbed our voices in there. It was fun, but that kind of got me charged. I want to do more of that stuff. So we started a different channel, and we did one for Kingdom Hearts, and that fell through very quickly. And after that, my friend Adam, he introduced me to Voice Acting Alliance through there. So I went there and I made an account and I did a mass audition. And out of the 5 roles I auditioned through, I lost out on 4, and the one that I nailed was the lead role in The Legend of Zelda: The Return. I was Link, and simultaneously I was the narrator. That was a really brutal first role to do because of all the work. But you know what? It trained me really, really well. I can now do long sessions because I did so many lines and so many things for Legend of Zelda: Return. And those were a lot of lines. I can recall, I think it's like the second episode or so, and I marked them down. I recorded 102 lines for The Legend of Zelda: The Return, and I think the second episode, that was a lot of lines for a beginner. And I think I had a headset for maybe the first 2 episodes, and I left it and got a USB mic. I can't really remember since it was so long ago, but it actually, I think it was a USB mic. It was a headset. Now that I really think about it, for the first few episodes, because I was doing some tricks to allow me to do the yelling scenes and such. At some point, I switched to a USB microphone once I started to upgrade and get more and that kind of thing. But that was my first major role, and that's how I met Wuten and Coconut through that, who I brought onto my next project. And I just kind of decided from there, this is kind of what I want to do. I love voice acting. I love voice actors. I've always paid attention to what voice actor did what role in what video game, anime, or TV show. And since YouTube is now starting to open up for me as a possibility for all these fan projects, which I had never seen before, I thought it was just mostly a station for the GMVs and that kind of thing. And I wanted to do it. I wanted to pursue that. So I started auditioning for a lot more things. Eventually, I made Ghost Rider. I brought Wuten and Coconut on there, and I hired on to a bunch of people, a lot who have stayed with me today, like Austin Nebbia, of course, and JD Exists. And, 13th Syndicate Tech had a few roles on Ghost Rider, although she didn't really get her big thing till Sonic. But I met a lot of people through there that I keep in contact with quite a few of them to this day, so that's kind of really how it started for me. I auditioned for a role, I got the role, and then that role led to another one. And when I started making my own projects and meeting people and hiring people on there, they got me. Austin Nebbia got me a lot of jobs. And I think that's fair because I keep putting in all my stuff. So I put him in all my stuff, and he got me a couple of jobs. He got me a role in the Nth Doctor, where I play a companion, which is the closest thing to Doctor Who I'm ever going to really get is with this American voice, unless it's Jack Harkness. But so he got me that, and he's always introducing me to some stuff and introducing me to people who he feels like would be good for roles, and one thing really leads to another. So that's how I got started. I just did something for fun. I decided I liked it, and I decided not only that I liked it, but I wanted to invest money into it, because from where I started is very different from where I am now. I'm not using a headset, I am using a condenser microphone. I have upgraded from simple editing to learning tricks and that kind of thing, just listening to things. So I'm seriously pursuing this, and I do want to be a voice actor and a writer and a director. For what, I don't know, whether if I go, say, work at Funimation or go do video games, or somehow try to stake it out on my own and do my own thing, because there's a lot of things that I want to do. And I apologize for ranting on here because this is supposed to be how I got started, but I would like to do my own anime. I really like what Ruby started, even though I don't really like everything that Ruby did. But Ruby is like the first step to me to the closest thing to what I call Western anime. I want to do something like that, but I want to do it my way. So I would love to do that one day. I'd love to do my own kind of Ruby, so to speak.
Question 3. Are you going to add Blaze into Secret Identity?
I actually kind of debated about having Blaze having a cameo in Secret Identity. The problem is with that, I don't know if Mark's gonna actually do something with Blaze. And I already kind of did something with Rouge that he didn't do at all, completely. And so I opted out adding Blaze in just because I didn't know if Mark's gonna do anything with it. So no, I'm probably not going to add Blaze into Secret Identity. If I do add her, it's going to be very last minute. It's going to be a very brief cameo, if anything. But I'm going to say no, I am not going to add Blaze into Secret Identity for now.
From Wolf Lover 555. Number 1. Is Mikey older or younger than Sam? That was never clear to me throughout the series.
Mikey is older than Sam. He's 2 years older than Sam. I thought I probably should have made it a little bit more obvious than it was. I guess the technical clue that you could find that Mikey is older than Sam is in the episode Mikey, where he says he's going to school and Sam's staying home. That would kind of imply that that Mikey is at the point where he's going to school and Sam is not. So that would be the only clue. I should have made it obvious because in the fanfiction version it's much more obvious Mikey is the older one, but yeah, you heard it here. Mikey is older than Sam. He's the oldest brother.
Number 2. Are you gonna add any other Sonic characters like Shadow or possibly Silver?
Kind of like Pokemon Sonic fan 0148's question. At least with Silver, I'm not really planning on adding any more characters into Secret Identity beyond the ones we have. Sort of. Again, we're kind of going into a little bit of spoiler territory of some of these characters, but Silver, I'm not really gonna bring in, or really any other Sonic character for that part. Technically, I just brought in another Sonic character, sorta. You're gonna see by episode 12 who that Sonic character is, but actually I brought in two characters, and you're getting to see who those two characters are for episode 12, sort of. But any more than that, no. And as for Shadow, this is a very actually popular question. Even through episodes, I get asked if I'm going to bring in Shadow and ideas for Shadow. I'm going to say this now, and I'm going to elaborate later in a question down the line that I see. Shadow will not be in Secret Identity. I'm pretty firm on that. I'm not bringing in Shadow. There is a reason for that, and I'm going to elaborate that in the question down below. But no, I'm not going to add Blaze into Secret Identity, or Shadow, or Silver, or that kind of thing. But it's fun. It's fun to suggest these things, but this is the kind of the core group that I'm sticking with now. There's a couple more who have yet to be introduced, but those particular ones, no.
Number 3. How did you come up with the idea for the series?
Well, technically, this is not my series. But I know pretty much about Mark's story enough to tell you how he came up with the idea. So, some of you may or may not have seen it, but the primary inspiration for the story was a one-shot Superman graphic novel called Superman Secret Identity. That's also where he got the title from. The graphic novel was a one-shot series that depicted a young man in our world who was named Clark Kent, who got the powers of Superman, and the story followed him from teenager to old man, showed his life, how he progressed, and how a real-world Superman had superpowers. He was very fascinated with the teenage half of the story, the teenage part of the story. And in the inspiration came part of the idea of doing this for Sonic. The Sonic thing, I had already had a head start at the time at my project Ghost Rider, which was a Kingdom Hearts and Ghost Rider crossover, which featured the protagonist, a teenager who would turn into the Ghost Rider, Hell's bounty hunter. And he liked that idea too. I'm not quite 100% sure why he chose Sonic. I think maybe because the Sonic X anime was on its run right there, and we were really into the Sonic games as of late, so he just chose Sonic because he was the most charged and most inspired for that. So I think that's how it went. And so he wrote up the story about a 15-year-old who, in the original fanfiction, here's a little fun fact for you, was named Sonic Suai. So it was about a 15-year-old kid named Sonic Suai who turned into Sonic the Hedgehog one day and followed his life for the next few months of him becoming Sonic and then learning about these Guardians and then these Chaos Emeralds and fighting these big threats and that kind of thing, and this the new GUN of that world and all that kind of thing. So that's where it got, and he got his audience, he got his core audience coming in back, and he finished Secret Identity. I think it topped off, the number's gonna escape me right now, but it's definitely somewhere between 24 to 28 chapters. You'll know by the text thing I'll put up what number it was. But he finished his story, and he started on a sequel, so that's kind of where the inspiration for his story began. Obviously, my adaptation is inspired from his story, strongly inspired. It's not an exact, literal adaptation, mostly because he wrote the story when he was really young. So it's got that first-timers kind of mistakes and that kind of thing. And there were a couple of things I didn't really like. I always felt the Sonic Suai thing was a little bit on the nose. Like, somebody can, Sonic the Hedgehog, hey, your first name is Sonic. Your parents must not really like you. That would be an awkward conversation. So I changed it to Sam, and I changed his brother's names, Sonic's brother's names, from Michael Suai to Mikey Suai. Instead, everything else mostly remains the same. It follows the flavor of the story for sure. And Mark would be able to pick up, oh, you adapted that part, and oh, you melded those two events. I see what you did there. So all the little episodes are kind of shout outs to him about which parts of the story that I took a spin on or adapted, but it remains within the same flavor of it. Now, as I said before, you could go read the fanfiction version if you want. I'm not restricting anybody from it, but pre-warnings for anybody who decides to. 1, there are spoilers. And we also place spoilers at different times. For example, I think Mark placed a pretty big spoiler at the 15th or 12th chapter of the story, and I'm not doing that spoiler until the very end of the series. So, you have been warned. Also, the writing is old, so it doesn't reflect his current skill today. It's his first time his work, so remember that. And there are differences. So, you're fully free to go read that if you want, and then you can compare that to the adaptation now. Or you could wait until the adaptation is finished. We're topping off at 21 episodes at the very least. You can wait till the adaptation is finished and then go read it, or just not read it all and just enjoy this version. I don't really care. You can enjoy the story however the way you want, but that's how Mark was strongly inspired by the story. A Superman graphic novel. There's a picture. I asked him to take a picture with me when he got the graphic novel for Christmas, and I'll put it up right here for you to look at that. So yeah, that's what I asked him to pose for that picture with me. So that's the comic that inspired this whole story, and then I was doing something similar with Ghost Rider, so he decided to follow that. And he was really inspired by the Sonic anime and the Sonic video games that were out at the time. So yeah, pretty simple. And me, I guess my inspiration, I just really wanted to tell the story. I thought it was a good story. I thought people should have known a bit more, and I always like to put my own spin on things because I don't like literal adaptations. So yeah.
From Snooper17. 1. Location, location, location. Ever since the characters have started their emerald hunting quest, you've demonstrated that getting from one country to another can take seconds, so no flights or traffic problems. Are you going to be highlighting any other countries for the characters to visit for the next emerald?
Interesting question, because in the original version of Secret Identity, they did visit a lot more countries. In that, it kind of turned into this world adventure kind of thing. While I can say there is another country that is going to be visited, I can't say if it's going to be by Sam or by a different character. So there's not going to be as much world traveling as the idea, but the idea behind that is, yeah, it opens up the possibilities for travel. I think, as you joked in the comments, a fast travel system. As you see, it does come with a cost. Sam does need to eat a lot, and it needs at least 2 emeralds to make a consistent journey with 4 people. I mean, with himself, he probably could just get there and still have energy to do the thing he needed to do, but with bringing in himself and 3 others, it took a lot of energy out of them, even with 2 Chaos Emeralds. So, there is one location that's going to be visited, maybe 2, at least just 1, but not really a lot of the whole the fast travel system thing, but that's basically how it worked.
2. Behind the scenes. If it wasn't obvious enough, the scheduling and makings for each episode are quite possibly the hardest part making the series. How do you keep yourselves well informed and connected when something like, let's say, an unfortunate event occurs?
You know, I was going to answer this question, but Coconut decided to answer it, even though she technically didn't have to and wasn't really directed to her. She answered it in such a way that I actually just kind of want to let her take it from here.
So I have another question from Snooper17. So their question about behind the scenes. So yes, the scheduling can be crazy for sure. Basically, we'll get a group email from Michael, and he'll tell us what the due dates are for everybody. Sometimes people have extenuating circumstances, so their due date is pushed a little bit further. But basically, he gives us a more than enough time to take some time and record the lines because he's understanding of everyone's schedule. For example, last summer, I was in Quebec for 5 weeks doing a French immersion program, so so I had to do my lines before I left, of course, because I wasn't going to be able to record anything. Even though I had my laptop and stuff there, it just wasn't a good recording environment. So I got my lines, I don't remember if I got them early, but I did get a bunch of lines done before I left, and it was crazy, but I was glad that I got to stick to the schedule. And then there was a little bit of the hiatus until I came back, and then when I came back, then I was able to get back into the recording of lines and get back on schedule. But overall, there's a lot of flexibility and a lot of understanding. Sometimes we've had tighter deadlines than others, And personally, I'm kind of the other person that, like, I get it and I'm like, sweet, I can do this right now if I have the time. Or I'm like, oh my god, I'm just gonna be the last day or the day of, and I'm gonna have when Michael wants it, and I'm gonna do it. But I don't think I've missed a deadline. Michael can correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm pretty good about it. Unless there's been something horrible, but I can't think of anything particular. But I try to be good about it because I know it's difficult to get everyone's lines and then organize them and edit. Like, there's so much work that goes into it, and I only play a very small part of it. It's whenever I do voice acting, it's always the people behind the scenes that do the editing, the cleanup, and that do all that work that really deserve the credit because they have to work a lot harder than I do. And also, what I do is when I submit my lines, I usually submit more than one take, generally 3, sometimes just 2, but it gives the option for Michael or whoever's listening to them to either pick their favorite take or to tell me to redo them, which I think is also really important. So basically, I need that kind of feedback. So there's been times when I've received critical feedback from the casting producer who's saying, you know, like, this is not working, but in a really nice way. Basically, they'll say, you know, can you try this? Can you try this? Like, they give me options so I can resubmit it, and I really like that because when I get feedback from the producers, then it lets me know that they hear a place where I could be better. So it's nice to get just critical, like, feedback like that for something like voice acting, where first of all, like, listening to your own voice is weird, but it's nice when someone else who's listening to your voice has like a fresh pair of ears, so they can give you feedback that's really helpful. If you send your voice recordings to your friends and stuff, they'll be like, you sound great. So it being critical is a difficult part of doing voice acting work and of course acting work. So I really appreciate it when I can work on things like that.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I will add, at least on my side though, the only thing that is not covered by the acting crew is the writing process. The writing process does take a while, especially if they get hit with writer's block during the middle of it, because I want each episode to be good in a contained way. I want it to overarch, but I want you guys to go back and say, I like that episode because of that. And I don't want you guys to go, that was a filler episode. It was just setting up for a larger story. So I always try to put in, like, if it's a joke or if it's a scene or it's a moment or a theme within the episode that ties into itself within the episode and something as well within the overarching story. I want you guys to enjoy the whole overall series and each episode in its way, in a self-contained sort of way. But yeah, Coconut explained it better than I could.
3. Motivation. Simple question to you and all the cast members. Why? I know that Michael Fry did this because he enjoyed Mark's story and wanted it to be shared around, even when their differences are not exact. But honestly, what motivated all of you to take part in all this?
I don't know about motivated, for me anyway. It's more of a, hey, want to do this? And I'm like, okay. I mean, I can't speak for anyone else in the cast, but I didn't seek it out. They came to, Mr. Fry came to me. He asked me to audition. Like I had mentioned a little earlier, once I read the script, I was assured this wasn't gonna suck, and I was on board. It wasn't like, oh, I need to do this. This is something I have to do. It's more like why not? Can't think of a good reason not to at this moment, so yeah.
I think that's what you have to understand about this series is it's just fantastic. There's no other word for it. It has started off as something small and something simple and something fun, and it's grown into a huge audience with such an emotional response to all the episodes. And as cast members, we sit there and we're in awe by every response and every comment and any fan art, fan video we get. It's just, it's mind-blowing, and it's a great thing to be a part of. I'm so thankful that I get to be a part of something like this.
Well, I often, I'm always looking for new projects and new, things to work on, and I love Sonic, and Rouge, like I said, is just a really fun character, and I I really liked this script when Michael showed it to me, and it just seemed like an interesting project to me. And I just want to do a good job.
It's a really good question because, why am I an actor? I actually was just asked to write a paper about this a couple weeks ago. But for the most part, it just comes down to the fact that this gives me the kind of high and thrill that, a lot of other people, they get from singing or from painting or from being an accountant or I don't know. But it just, there's something about this type of work for me that just makes me want to do it more. And I think a lot of it, as I keep saying, it's the people. It's because the people that do this, and it's not just the guys in SI, although they certainly are included. Everybody in this field is just really damn good for the most part. And I've always thought that this is true. If you're a jerk in this business, you're either not in the business for very long, or you're really, really, really talented enough that people will overlook your jerkiness and allow you to do work just because you're that talented. I'm not naming any names, but I've heard stories about those people, and it always kind of saddens me when I hear that. But the motivation for me primarily is just the fact that I get to work with great people doing great, with a great script, and I know that the project, the end result is going to be a good sound. So, yeah.
I kind of touched upon this in my earlier, in my first response, I think, to another one of the viewers. But Michael's awesome. He always tells me if he has work for me, or if he has a character that he thinks would be appropriate for me. And even though I've worked with him in many projects, I still audition like everybody else. I don't get a free pass or anything like that, and I don't feel like he has particular favoritism. He does work with new people and different people, and he also has a lot of the same people that he's worked with before, but it's because we audition and he thinks that we're a good fit, which is really nice. So whenever he has new projects and stuff, I'm usually like, hey, I think this character would be maybe good for me, or he'll suggest it to me. And I'll just look, or I'll just stumble upon the link on the Voice Acting Alliance, but usually I hear from him first, because obviously he wants to reach out to the people he's working with already and give them the first chance to act for it and to try out for it, which I think is really cool. So I stick close to Michael's projects because we worked on a bunch of stuff, so I think that's really cool.
Story time. Like I said earlier, I've known Mike for, forever. And it's actually his and his brother's writing that introduced me to him. He's done a lot of fan fiction on the account that Secret Identity first came up on. And when the fic was in active production, I was really involved in following the story of Sonic Suai the first time. So when Mike announced that he was going to do SI in addition to Ghost Rider, I was completely stoked. And then he asked me to audition for the role of Maria, and I couldn't contain my excitement. I do this project because I love it, and because I want to see where it grows and changes and develops from the original fic. I've read that fic. I know a ton of spoilers, but the show is going completely differently, and I want to see whether those spoilers hold true, or if Mike and Mark are going to take this someplace even more amazing.
Well, you kind of already answered my motivation part, at least on my half. Yeah, I wanted to do it because I liked Mark's story. If I have to think of something that I never did say before, I guess technically it eases a little bit of guilt in a way. I guess not really something to feel guilty for, but when he was making Secret Identity, I was also making Ghost Rider at the same time, the fanfiction version of Ghost Rider, and they were both doing well within their areas. Ghost Rider was just doing better. And the large amount of that reason is fandom. The Kingdom Hearts fandom is huge. Fanfiction.net, it's now like the second most popular fandom in games areas, only just now surpassed by the Pokemon fandom, believe it or not. But it remained on the top for years, the Kingdom Hearts fandom. And the Sonic fandom's pretty low and down there on the list, so it doesn't have that big of an audience to drag in people to his story. So, but I remember when I was younger, I always felt a little guilty. I mean, I don't really know how Mark felt about it. He always loved writing his story, and I loved reading it. And he loved the people who would review and tell him what he did right and what he did wrong, and he loved the support that he got. And he was able to finish the story, which is more than I could say for Ghostwriter, but I chose to write a lot. Well, he chose to write a more self-contained adventures. So it does ease a little bit of guilt. And, you know, the irony being that this is more popular on my channel than Ghostwriter was, and Ghostwriter was more popular in fanfiction than Sonic was. I'm actually okay with this twist because it eases up, again, a lot of the guilt. But yeah, that's something new about why I'm going to do it. But the main reason was I did like his story, and I thought I could adapt it in a way that people would like it and show his version as well as my own little spin on it. So yeah, that's my motivation.
From DS Master 10. Here's a question for the entire cast, and an appropriate one too. What are all your experiences with the Sonic franchise? Have any of you played the games, read the comics, or watched any of the shows?
Yes, I have. My childhood was filled with Sonic 2, Sonic Heroes, Sonic SatAM. Great show. I own it on DVD. Sonic Underground, I do not own on DVD, and that is because, looking back on my childhood and looking back at that show, it wasn't great. And Sonic X was a show I watched as a kid as well. Again, looking back on it, not that great. As much as I love Jason Griffith as Sonic, doesn't really save it. Also, I love watching the Sonic OVA, and I would buy a copy on DVD if it weren't ludicrously overpriced. I mean, the voice acting, it's terrible. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it, it's terrible. I mean, you get used to it as the movie goes on, but the voice work in that movie is terrible. However, the story, the art, is absolutely perfect. If you haven't seen it yet, you can find it on YouTube. It's there, watch it, please, it's great. But again, be warned, the voice acting is terrible. But the story and everything else is perfect. And I've also read quite a bit of the comics, and I actually own some in like a drawer in my room. And they're fantastic, and I think if the games put in as much effort into the story as the comics do, I think we'd have some great and memorable Sonic games. But at the same time, with games, the story is really just a side dish. If your gameplay isn't up to snuff, the story's not gonna save it. That's just how I feel about it anyway. Speaking of games, I've played almost all of the games from Sonic Heroes to Sonic Generations. I haven't played any of the recent ones because I'm broke. I have no money, I'm broke. I am broke. I am broke. I am broke! I'm broke! Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Moving on.
Oh my gosh. You have to understand, in my house, there was either a lot of Legend of Zelda or there was a lot of Sonic growing up. And I can remember watching my brothers play the games, and I had been young enough that I didn't really understand games, so I got stuck a lot. There was a few that I loved playing, and besides that, every Saturday there was the Sonic cartoons. Every Saturday I had to watch them. And funny enough, Tails was my favorite. So yes, a lot of Sonic growing up, and I'm not a stranger to the series.
I've been a huge Sonic fan since pretty much, like, my whole life. Like, ever since I was really little, I used to play all the Sonic games. I played Sonic CD a ton. Like, I don't know, I played that all the time. I used to get upset when Sonic would drown. I would, like, start crying. So I just really loved Sonic, and when I was a little bit older, I started drawing Sonic. Like, I have some pretty bad drawings of Sonic from when I was like 5 or 6, with Sonic with a really huge head. It's pretty funny. But I've played pretty much all the Sonic games, except for probably like the newest ones, like for the Wii U, because I don't have that. For the comics, I've read some of the comics. I've done some fan dubs of the comics too, with other projects. And the shows. Oh, the shows. I used to watch the one with Princess Sally and Bunny and Antoine and all them. And then, maybe 9 years ago, I watched Sonic Underground because it was on Netflix. There was a bunch of things that I hadn't watched, but then I started watching. And then I even watched the first one with just Sonic and Tails. That was kind of recent. But yeah, I've watched pretty much all the shows. And Sonic X, I've watched a lot of those episodes. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So overall, I'd say I'm a pretty big Sonic fan. So that's also another motivation for me to be helping with this project.
I did not really read the comics growing up. I didn't even really see the shows, though, except I knew they existed. It was mostly through the games with me, because we had an old... me and my brother growing up had an old Sega Game Gear, and we would play the first Sonic cartridge, over and over again, and it was really fun. And then when my brother graduated to getting a GameCube, he got Sonic 2 Battle Adventure along with that, and me and him would race each other through the pyramids, playing Sonic and Shadow all the time. And also, I got Escape from the City stuck in my head constantly because it's a great song. But that's primarily my thing with Sonic. And then as my voiceover career kind of started to bloom, I've gotten to know a couple of people that did work on this series, on a couple of them. So, Roger Craig Smith and Mike Pollock and a couple of other guys, and they're all amazing people. And yeah, I mean, I kind of wish that I had more Sonic growing up, because he's really cool. I didn't get nearly as much Sonic as I got Mario. Mario was my jam growing up. And I think I think Sonic is just as important as Mario and Zelda to an extent. But, the franchise, I think, for a lot of people just hasn't really been there, or as prevalent in their lives as some of the others, and that was the case with me. But I get to kind of make up for that by doing this, and it's really fun.
This is a really good question. It makes me feel bad because I have not played Sonic extensively, in any sort of way, because I didn't own a Sega or anything like that. So I played it a little bit as a kid. I played it at friends' houses. I love video games in general, so I'll pretty much play anything except for FPS or RTS games. They're just not my forte. So I played lots of Sonic with friends, casually. I've seen a couple episodes of the show. Some of my friends who are hardcore Sega fans, they have told me that the show is actually really fun and silly. So I've seen a little bit of it, and I definitely want to get into it because it looks like it's a fun watch. It's an easy watch, and I like shows that are directed to a wide audience. And obviously I like cartoons. But I don't know a whole lot about the characters. I have a Sonic comic book. I'm trying to remember where I got it from. Yeah, I have a couple Sonic comic books that I got, and they're awesome. The art is great, the characterizations are great. It's a fun story. Obviously, I just picked a random issue, so I wasn't following it too closely. But yeah, I have a ton of Sonic research to do. Whenever I have free time, I'm pretty sure I can watch it on YouTube. So I should at least watch the show because that's pretty easily digestible. But good question.
My history with Sonic is kind of long and complicated. I haven't actually played many of the games, and I've never beaten any of them. But in middle and high school, I had friends who were really super in love with the franchise. Majorly obsessed with it. And I kind of gained a second-hand love for it. My first experience with Sonic was as a little kid, when someone brought, I kid you not, one of those original brick-like Sega Game Gears. I think that's right, the handheld thing that had a Sonic game and passed it around to let us all play. I wouldn't really hear or be aware of Sonic again until middle school when I met those aforementioned friends. I've played a bit of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, which I borrowed from a friend. I had Sonic Heroes for a while, played the hotly debated Sonic game for the Xbox 360, well, a little bit of it, have Shadow the Hedgehog, and played some of that. I'm not a super fan myself, but the whole franchise is really dear to my heart.
Oh man, my Sonic experiences. Ooh, can I cover them all? My earliest Sonic experience, and not even Mark would know this, not even Mark or Matt would know this, but my earliest Sonic experience was playing Sonic for the Sega Genesis at my godfather's house. That was technically my first experience with it, and I always liked it from there. But I guess I didn't really get to introduce to Sonic until a demo for Sonic Heroes on the GameCube, and then we got the Sonic Heroes game for the GameCube. That was our first introduction to the Sonic series. And then my brother Matt got for a birthday the pack of Sonic Adventure DX for the GameCube and Sonic Adventure 2 for the GameCube. And those were our introductions into the Sonic series themselves. We played the games. And then the Sonic X anime came out on 4Kids. Still probably one of the better animes on 4Kids that I have seen. And so that really helped. That was our big introduction to the series as well as all the games that had followed. I never got to see the earlier cartoons or anything like that. They just didn't air when I was really younger. I didn't really pay attention to them. So I didn't have that experience with those series like Sonic Underground, Sonic the Hedgehog show, that kind of thing. And I enjoy the Sonic Boom cartoon now. I enjoyed it a lot more than the actual game, which I found ironic. I thought I was going to love the game and hate the show. I ended up loving the show and hating the game, but what did you really expect? But those are my experience. I have not read the Sonic comics, the Sonic Archie comics. I have not read them. I know they've been in print for forever, but I've never read. Actually, no, that's not true. There was a GameCube game called the Sonic Greatest Hits Collection, where they had a bunch of the old-fashioned Sonic games, and on it they had like a digital edition of some of the first Archie comics. So, and these were like fourth wall breaking comics. Although I think the Archie comics do break the fourth wall already, but those were. I guess I technically did read them, even though I don't really remember them very well. So yeah, mostly through the games and then the show. I'm probably one of the few that tries to defend the 3D titles, even though some few are making it very difficult to. Come on, guys. Sonic Adventure, Sonic the Hedgehog was better than Sonic Boom. Yeah, I said it. It's true. Sonic the Hedgehog was better than Sonic Boom, Rise of Lyric. Can you really deny it? But yeah, that's my experience with the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise as of current. I really hope they do pick up and get better, because it's kind of sad to see this game series kind of fall so low. I just hope, and I don't think going back and I'm gonna go weigh in on this thing because there's like two answers. Like fans says, let's go back to Sonic Adventure. Yeah, those games are not as great as everybody remembers them to be. The nostalgia thing is blinding you on that one. Sonic Adventure 1 was good, but it had some issues. Quite a few issues. Sonic Adventure 2 was good. Also, it has some issues. If you really want a more unbiased opinion about it, I would check out Some Call Me Johnny for the Johnny vs. Sonic the Hedgehog series. Out of all the people I've seen it, like the Game Grumps or anybody review the Sonic games, he is a little bit more on the fair side. He points out both the good and the bad. I wouldn't watch the Game Grumps for that. They're focused on having fun and trashing the series. But yeah, returning to Sonic Adventure is not necessarily the answer, nor is returning to the 2D Sonic playing. Does anybody remember Sonic the Hedgehog Episode 4? Did anybody find that fun? Yeah, I thought so too. Returning, so it's not simple answers. It just needs a really good development cycle. It needs a good development cycle and a good idea. There's like bits and pieces you could find from each Sonic game that are really good, but it just needs a real amount of development time. People who really actually are into it, not a quick cash grab like they've been trying to do for the recent Sonic games. Or a tie-in to a show that is not even good as a tie-in, Rise of Lyric. So that's a complicated, long and complicated answer for such a simple question, but it's been one I've been thinking about for a while, seeing both sides, like, they just need to go back to 2D, or just go back to Sonic Adventure. It's not going to be that simple. Returning to that is just, it's not a simple thing. It needs real development time. But yeah, that's my experience with the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, and that's where I want it to go in the future.
From Mookie Yalin. 1. To Michael Fry. I have some ideas for Secret Identity and was wondering if you would accept them. The first idea is that Shadow appears as an altered clone of Sam, who can transform without the emerald. The second idea is that later on, the Guardians manage to either create or discover an alternative to the Chaos Emeralds when it comes to accessing their respective transformations.
Okay, so this kind of ties back to what I said earlier about Shadow. I'm not bringing Shadow into Secret Identity. And the reason why I didn't answer there is the reason why I want to answer it here. Mark already has a plan for Shadow, and that's the reason why I'm not bringing him into Secret Identity, because there is something for it later. For the people who don't know, Mark did write a sequel. There is a sequel for Secret Identity. I do not know if we are going to adapt it. We might. So if we do, I am laying down plans for that. But to say it in a way that kind of explains it, but still keeps some things hidden. If Secret Identity is loosely inspired from Sonic Adventure 1, then naturally the sequel would be loosely inspired from Sonic Adventure 2. Just to put it like that. So, I do thank you for your ideas about Shadow. It's an interesting twist, but there's already a plan for Shadow, and I am following that plan. So, thank you. As for your second idea, that's actually already in the series. In episode 4, during the Sam and Dart fight, Dart says this.
You see, Sam, you're relying on that Chaos Emerald of yours to fuel you for power. Probably because you have no idea how to manifest the energy on your own. Let me show you what proper usage of the Chaos Emerald's power looks like.
If you didn't catch it, the idea of that was that Dart is an experienced Guardian. He doesn't need the Chaos Emerald to transform. He can just summon up the energy within himself, and trained Guardians can do that. Sam is not a trained Guardian, so he needs a Chaos Emerald to jumpstart that transformation. So it's kind of like an easy thing. Dart has been trying to train Sam, I think, as you've seen in episode 7. It's episode 7. He's trying to train Sam in a way that he can be able to summon up the energy without using that Chaos Emerald, but Sam is using the Chaos Emerald as a crutch now. That is a theme that's going to be reoccurring throughout all of Secret Identity, and you'll see by the end how that particular theme concludes.
2. To Michael Fry. I apologize if this comes out as rude, but could you please tell me how many episodes of Sonic will need to come out before Ghost Rider comes out of hiatus?
I also apologize for being the one to say this. This was, I think, announced like about a year ago or so, at least on the Facebook page, and I thought I announced it on YouTube, but maybe I did not. But Ghost Rider has been canceled. I canceled the project Ghost Rider after too many cast difficulties with getting people to get in their lines and people leaving the project and recasting. It was just tiring event. It just didn't become worth it anymore. Ghost Rider wasn't really getting a lot of attention, and it was having too much issues. I just decided it was becoming too much trouble than it was worth, so I decided to let it go. So Ghost Rider is canceled. There's not going to be any more Ghost Rider episodes. That doesn't mean I'm done with Ghost Rider. I do want to do something with Ghost Rider, and to bring it up, Mark, when he wrote Secret Identity, he decided to cameo my character Sora Shimomura into his story quite a few times. So, as a little fun callback, I decided in the Ghost Rider fanfiction version to bring in his character Sam Suai, and we did, well, it was Sonic Suai at the time, Sonic Suai, but we did this thing back and forth for a while. Eventually, we started an idea for a crossover story. I would like to do that crossover story, maybe, in the future, but I'm having difficulties with that, so that's why I haven't talked about it. So, and you'll notice that Daniel Ketch from Ghost Rider Season 2 was in Episode 8, Mikey. So, and I was laying plans in Ghost Rider. There was an episode in Ghost Rider where Ketch and Tifa are looking at a bunch of guys who are investigating the Ghost Rider fight. Those guys were supposed to be GUN agents. When he says, don't ask me where they're from because I don't know their names, they're GUN agents. I never got around to confirming that, but I was starting to try to connect the two, hoping to do an eventual crossover. And I still might, but no, there's not going to be any more Ghost Rider episodes, and I'm sorry about that. Guys, thank you so much for this Q&A. This was so much more fun than my last one. I apologize for the length, but when you've got a lot of people answering questions and they have a lot to say, including myself, I apologize if I ranted on about a few of them. I didn't want to edit it down. I wanted everybody to be able to express their full thoughts and that kind of thing. So, thank you guys for the Q&A. It has been a lot of fun. I'm maybe hoping to do another one in the far off future, if you guys would like to see another one in the far off future. But again, thank you guys so much for participating. This was a lot of fun, and I really, really enjoyed it. So thank you guys so much for being a part of the Q&A.